Today is Friday, July 7th. What to know about the weapons the U.S. now plans to send to Ukraine and why they're so controversial. Also, we'll tell you what a new federal study found about chemicals in America's drinking water and what you can do about it. Plus, a big step toward getting more Americans a breakthrough Alzheimer's treatment. How Twitter is responding to Meta's new app, Threads, as it becomes the most rapidly downloaded app ever. And which one of the world's most popular bands just announced its final tour. Those stories and more news to know coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Ukraine is getting another big boost from the United States, but this one is pretty controversial. Reports say the Biden administration is set to make an announcement today that it will send cluster munitions, or cluster bombs, as some people call them. They're a type of rocket, bomb, or missile that release tens or hundreds of smaller explosive munitions when fired. But here's why they're especially controversial. The International Committee of the Red Cross says between 10 and 40% of cluster bombs fail to explode on impact like they're supposed to. Historically, their failure rate is the highest among all classes of weapons. They can sometimes stay on the ground for years, and then they can explode later if they're disturbed or mishandled. Most people who die from cluster munitions are apparently civilians. There's even a treaty that was signed by more than 100 countries in 2008 that banned their production and use. But the US, Russia, and Ukraine never signed that treaty. The American Defense Department defends using them, saying cluster munitions are, quote, legitimate weapons with clear military utility. Ukraine has been asking the U.S. for them since Russia's invasion first started last February, saying they can help troops target Russian forces that have really dug into their positions on the battlefield and overcome their disadvantage in manpower and weaponry. Ukraine has promised to use them carefully, especially knowing that it's fighting on its own land. Still, the move is expected to trigger outrage from some allies and humanitarian groups that are against them. We expect to hear more about America's plan to send them to Ukraine, along with other military aid, later today. Speaking of controversial weapons, the U.S. Army is set to finish destroying all chemical weapons this week. This is a process that's taken decades and tens of billions of dollars. Now, there's apparently only a handful left at a depot in Kentucky. And when they're gone, all of the world's publicly declared chemical weapons will have been eliminated. We're talking about weapons like tanks full of poison that could be loaded onto jets and sprayed on targets below, or artillery shells that could cover entire forests with a mustard fog. These are a class of weapons deemed so inhumane that their use was condemned after World War I. But the U.S. and other countries kept developing them. That is, until the 1980s, when the U.S. and Soviet Union agreed to start destroying their chemical weapons stockpiles. But doing so has not been easy, since they're so dangerous to handle. So the mission ending this week marks a huge milestone. A new federal study is raising some alarms about tap water in the U.S. It found close to half, at least 45% of tap water, could be contaminated with at least one form of so-called forever chemicals. More officially, they're known as PFAS, and there are thousands of them. They've been found in everything from makeup to furniture to cookware and so on. And when they build up in the body, they've been linked to many different health problems like cancers, reproductive issues, developmental delays, and thyroid disease. The USGS was behind this latest study, testing water samples from more than 700 locations across the country over 5 years. And unlike other studies that look at water treatment plants or groundwater wells, the study focused on collecting water right from homeowners' taps. USGS scientists now estimate there's a 75% chance that PFAS will be found in urban areas and a 25% chance in rural areas. Exposures may also be more common in certain regions like the Great Plains, Great Lakes, Eastern Seaboard, and Southern California. Now the USGS chemist who led this research says anyone who's worried about the quality of their drinking water can reach out to local officials about testing or treatment. Then state environmental protection agencies, health departments, or local water utilities might have their own suggestions. You could also install specific types of water filters that are certified to lower the levels of PFAS in water. Meanwhile, there are already federal efforts underway to limit forever chemicals in drinking water. The EPA proposed the first federal drinking water limits on PFAS earlier this year. Right now, that proposal is in public comments phase, and there have been some objections to it, since lowering levels of PFAS in drinking water will likely mean cities and towns investing millions of dollars in new infrastructure. Still, the agency is expected to issue a final rule by the end of the year. For the first time in more than 2 decades, the FDA fully approved a new Alzheimer's drug. It's called Leqembi, and it's especially promising since it's the first Alzheimer's medicine that's actually been shown to slow the progression of the disease in its early stages, including declines in memory and thinking. Though it is not a cure. And there are some serious safety concerns. Leqembi can cause brain swelling or bleeding that can be life-threatening. But for some people, the benefits outweigh those risks. In the latest large long-term study, Leqembi slowed the rate of cognitive decline by 27% compared with a placebo. Here's another thing for patients and doctors to keep in mind. The drug costs more than $28,000 a year without insurance. Now that it's approved, though, Medicare says it will fully cover it for those who are enrolled as long as they agree to report data to a registry. And right now, most of the 6 million people in the U.S. with Alzheimer's are also eligible for Medicare. Private insurers say they're also looking into the FDA's approval now before making decisions about coverage. All right, we have more news for you coming up. But first, a break for our sponsor, HelloFresh. Okay, if you want to make your home the hangout place this summer, the key is having crowd-pleasing food. Well, HelloFresh is here to help you out. From a backyard bratwurst bar to tangy key lime pie, HelloFresh Market makes summer entertaining so much easier and more delicious. And if you're like me, where let's just say you would not consider yourself a chef, well, no worries. HelloFresh makes it so easy to follow along recipes with instructions and pictures, along with pre-portioned ingredients to prepare. I'm always pleasantly surprised at the meal I'm able to make thanks to HelloFresh. Plus, HelloFresh provides seasonal ingredients picked at peak ripeness and travel from the farm to your home in less than 7 days, and it's quality you can taste. No wonder HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. And a reminder, Green Chef is now owned by HelloFresh, so no matter which you choose, there's something for everyone. Go to HelloFresh.com/newsworthy50 and use code newsworthy50 for 50% off plus free shipping. Again, go to HelloFresh.com/newsworthy50 and use code newsworthy50 for 50% off plus free shipping. Now, back to the news. Well, there's more evidence the American job market is stabilizing. 3 new reports came out yesterday showing the so-called Great Resignation appears to be ending. The rate at which workers choose to quit their jobs has gone down. It's now only slightly above where it was before the pandemic disrupted the labor market. And in some industries like hospitality and retail, quitting has totally fallen back to pre-pandemic levels. All the while, the Labor Department says the number of people getting hired is up and the number of people getting laid off is down. The director of Indeed's hiring lab says this all means the Labor Department is getting into a kind of sweet spot, giving job seekers and employers some comfort this summer. We should know more when the full June jobs report comes out later today. If you bought a portable charger on Amazon recently, you may want to check it out. The Consumer Product Safety Commission just recalled nearly 200,000 of them because one caught fire on a commercial flight. And it caused so much smoke that 4 flight attendants ended up in the hospital for smoke inhalation. The portable chargers come from the brand VRURC. They have built-in cables and a wall plug. And they were sold exclusively on Amazon the last couple of years for $30 to $40. If you have one, you can get a replacement from the company. But you are asked to not just throw them away either. The safest way to get rid of them is take them to a place that can dispose of lithium batteries. We have more information about the exact product and model number involved in this recall in today's episode notes. In less than 24 hours, Instagram's new Twitter clone called Threads has surged to the top of App Store charts. It was downloaded more than 30 million times in less than 24 hours, and reports say it's the most rapidly downloaded app ever. In fact, Threads was trending on Twitter, the very platform it hopes to rival. So now it seems Twitter is fighting back and threatening legal action against Threads. A Twitter lawyer alleged Threads' parent company Meta hired former Twitter employees to help build Threads, stealing trade secrets and more. Though a Meta spokesperson has said not true. Still, Twitter's owner, Elon Musk, has been public that he's not happy about this new platform, tweeting quite a bit of criticism. Things like, quote, competition is fine, cheating is not. And any social media monopoly is despair, referring to the fact that Meta owns not only Threads, but also Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, and more, and has quite a bit of data on its users already. And keep in mind, while Threads' initial surge is very impressive, it still does have a way to go to truly rival the 17-year-old Twitter platform, which reportedly now has nearly 364 million monthly active users. By the way, the Newsworthy is now on both platforms. We signed into Threads yesterday, so if you're there, be sure to follow and connect with us at NewsworthyPod. After more than 50 years on the road, the Eagles are finally saying farewell. They announced their final tour this week, which will kick off in New York City's Madison Square Garden in September. For now, though, there's no end date. The band members say they'll return to certain cities depending on demand. So the tour is expected to continue into 2025. And fans can expect to hear all the classics like Take It Easy, Hotel California, and Take It to the Limit. Plus, another rock and roll Hall of Famer, the opening act for the Long Goodbye tour, will be Steely Dan. Tickets go on sale next week. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Feel Good Friday, when we bring you one extra feel-good or positive news story before the weekend. But before we get into that, I want to let you know about our sponsor, AG1. A friend recently asked me if I really drink AG1 as part of my morning routine, and I was happy to be able to tell her, yes, I do. That I really do reach for my tea or coffee less often because drinking AG1 makes me feel energized and ready to take on the day. I've also noticed improved digestion. If you haven't heard me talk about it yet, AG1 is a foundational nutrition supplement that can replace your multivitamin and probiotic. And it's just in one simple, drinkable habit. 1 scoop of AG1 mixed with water, that's it. I like to put ice and a splash of lemon juice in it, but see what works for you. And it's one of the easiest habits I've started since it makes me feel good overall, and it makes me feel like I'm doing something good for my body. AG1 uses a science-driven formulation of vitamins, probiotics, and whole food source nutrients. So if you're looking for a simpler, effective investment for your health, try AG1 and get 5 free AG1 travel packs and a free 1-year supply of vitamin D with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/newsworthy. That's drinkag1.com/newsworthy. Check it out. Okay, now back to Feel Good Friday. And today we are talking about a tiny solution to a big problem. All around the country, villages of tiny homes are popping up for homeless veterans and their families. Many of the homes are under 500 square feet, so dozens of them can be placed on lots. And now there's a bipartisan bill in Congress to create even more of them. It would allocate $100 million to go out over 5 years to fund 5 tiny home villages. These villages would make sure the people who live there not only get a place to stay, but also job and financial training, mental health support, and other social services. And even if the bill doesn't pass right away, the organization Operation Tiny Home still plans to build communities. It's assisted in more than a dozen tiny home villages so far, calling them a proactive, cost-effective way to address homelessness going forward. All right, thank you for being here today, and be sure to join us again tomorrow for our special edition Saturday episode. We are talking to our friend known as the Lazy Genius about how to make the most of summer without exhausting or disappointing yourself. Then join us again Monday for your next news roundup. For now, thanks again for joining us and have a great weekend.